Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers' Sleigh Bell Stories, a sleigh ride of festive tales and unexpected twists. Today's story for the first Advent, the day Christmas was almost forgotten forever in Memefield.
Well, welcome, dear listeners, to this very special Christmas edition of Skinner and Chalmers' Weekly Roast. Today is the 1st of December, the first Advent, and I know what you're thinking, Chalmers, isn't it a bit early to roast something? It's not even Christmas dinner yet, but fret not. Tonight's roast is warm, cozy, and heartwarming, a tale straight from the frosted streets of Memefield. And since my other half, Skinner, is off perfecting what I can only assume will be his annual culinary disaster, it's just me holding down the fort. At Christmas in Memefield, as you might imagine, is a unique affair. Picture snowflakes swirling over Sonic's front lawn while he zooms around stringing up lights at the speed of sound. A skeptical shadow grumbling in the corner. Yuji insists his deck of cards doubles as holiday decorations. And Garfield, yes, Garfield, begrudgingly donning a Santa hat only because John promised him extra lasagna. It's a strange, eclectic neighborhood, but hey, it's home. Now, I can't begin Night's story without addressing the elephant, or should I say gingerbread man in the room. Skinner, in his boundless optimism, decided this week to try his hand at baking. He claimed he was going for a traditional look, but when I saw the finished product, I could have sworn he'd accidentally made gingerbread action figures post-battle. Some were missing limbs. One had a perfectly round burn hole through the chest. I said, "Skinner, you've created the world's first charbroiled superhero team." He called them characterful. I called them concerning. But disasters aside, tonight I bring you something special. A story for the season, a tale of magic, mishap, and ultimately the enduring power of Christmas spirit. This is an untold Memefield legend, and I've titled it The Day Christmas Was Almost Forgotten Forever in Memefield. It all began one frosty December morning, the kind where the snow seems to glisten just a bit brighter, the air smells faintly of pine and cocoa, and even Garfield doesn't complain much. Skinner, always one to dive headfirst into festive cheer, had decided to rummage through the attic of Memefield Elementary, hunting for decorations, and in true Skinner fashion, what he found was not just ordinary tinsel or a plastic Santa. Oh no, he found a box. Now, this wasn't any ordinary box, mind you. It was old, the kind of old that makes you wonder if it belongs in a museum. The edges were frayed, the latch rusty, and there was a strange inscription on the lid in a language no one in Memefield could read. Naturally, Skinner brought it straight to me, declaring, "Oh, Chalmers!" A Christmas mystery. A mystery indeed. Inside the box was a single ornament, unlike anything I'd ever seen. It wasn't glass or plastic, it felt alive. It glowed faintly, like it had a tiny heartbeat, and it hummed a soft, haunting tune. It's enchanted, Skinner whispered. I rolled my eyes and said, "Enchanted. Or battery operated." He didn't laugh. That night, as Memefield prepared for its annual tree lighting ceremony, we decided to hang the ornament on the town tree. It seemed fitting. What better way to celebrate Christmas than with a piece of mysterious Memefield history? Sonic zipped up the ladder. Shadow muttered about useless traditions. Wasting my time with something like that. And Yugi suggested the ornament might summon a Christmas spirit monster. I ignored all of them and placed the ornament in Sonic's hand. "Top of the tree," I said. "Make it shine." And it did shine. For a moment it was beautiful, a perfect star atop the tree. But then it dimmed, and then it even vanished. Along with every other Christmas decoration in Memefield. The lights, the tinsel, the wreaths. It all disappeared in the blink of an eye. Even the snow seemed to lose its sparkle. That wasn't the strangest part, though. The strangest part was that no one seemed to notice. Not Sonic, not Shadow, not even Yuji, who was too busy dueling a confused Master Chief over a game of snow poker. The entire town had forgotten it was Christmas, except for me and Skinner. "Chalmers," Skinner said, his voice trembling. "What have we done?" I wanted to blame him. It's a reflex at this point, but deep down I knew this wasn't his fault. The ornament, whatever it was, had unleashed some kind of anti-Christmas curse, and it was up to us to fix it. So we did what any reasonable adults would do. We consulted Garfield. Now, Garfield isn't exactly a Christmas expert. His knowledge of the holiday begins and ends with lasagna. But he is an expert in napping, and he claimed that dreams hold the key to solving mysteries. Just don't wake me up too early, he added before curling back into a ball. Useless advice, perhaps. But it got us thinking. Skinner remembered the strange inscription on the box, and I remembered nothing because I'd been too busy trying to figure out if the ornament had Wi-Fi to control it with my smartphone, the Mim Phone Fortune. So we took the box to Memefield Library, where Loomis of Failing, or should I say Loomis of Succeeding, our resident librarian and part-time wizard, took one look and said, "At the spell of the forgotten Christmas." Apparently, Memefield has a long, complicated history with holiday magic. Decades ago, a toy maker named Everett Evergreen lived in the very spot where the elementary school now stands. He was a kind man, beloved by all, but he had one flaw. He wanted Christmas to be perfect. One year, in his quest for perfection, he crafted an enchanted ornament that would amplify Christmas cheer. But the spell backfired. Instead of amplifying Christmas, it buried it, hiding the holiday in the hearts of those who loved it most. Because we all know every magic comes with its price. And so, Loomis concluded, Memefield forgot Christmas. For years, the town lived in a strange, cheerless limbo, until the ornament was sealed away and the spell was broken. But now that it's been disturbed, she didn't finish the sentence, but we knew what she meant. We had to reverse the spell and fast before we're running out of time. That's where our story truly begins, my friends. Skinner and I embarked on a journey to save Christmas, armed with nothing but an old map, a glowing ornament, and the unwavering belief that Memefield deserved a second chance at holiday magic. And if you think that sounds like the plot of a bad Christmas movie, well, just wait until you hear what happened next. So, when I woke up the next morning, I was hoping, desperately hoping, that the events of the previous night were just the result of too much eggnog and not enough common sense. But as soon as I opened the curtains, my heart sank. Snow gone. Decorations gone. The abominable snowman gone. The cozy Christmas charm of Memefield vanished. All that remained were soggy puddles, bare rooftops, and an eerie, unshakable quiet. At first, I thought maybe it was just our block. Maybe the wind had blown away the decorations. Maybe Sonic had decided to prank us by speed, cleaning the streets overnight. But no, as I walked out into the neighborhood, it became painfully clear Christmas was missing. Skinner joined me shortly after, holding a cup of his burnt coffee. "Tell me this isn't real, Chalmers," he said. I wanted to tell him that everything was fine, that Christmas was just taking a coffee break, and would be back any minute now. But the look in his eyes told me he already knew the truth. And here's the strangest part no one else seemed to notice. Sonic sprinted past us in his usual blur, muttering something about another boring Tuesday. Shadow leaned against a lamppost, brooding. Standard Shadow behavior, but with none of his usual complaints about holiday noise. Even Garfield, who, mind you, treats Christmas with all the enthusiasm of a cat being bathed, was sitting on his porch. Skinner tried to make conversation with him. "Garfield," he said, "don't you feel like something's missing?" Garfield tilted his head and replied, "Like what? A lasagna? Nah, I'm good, though I do feel like I should be annoyed about something. Weird, ha." It hit us then. The curse wasn't just erasing Christmas, it was erasing people's memories of it entirely. Skinner and I were the only ones who remembered. Why, we weren't sure, but Skinner had a theory. "Maybe it's because we've been exposed to dark energy before," he said. "You know, with Robot Skinner and all." I raised an eyebrow. "Skinner, are you seriously telling me that your evil twin's attempts to steal your life, to get back the love he once experienced, have somehow made us immune to a Christmas erasing curse?" He shrugged. "Stranger things have happened in Memefield." Well, whether it was dark energy, dumb luck, or sheer stubbornness, one thing was clear: it was up to us to fix this. So, we decided to do what any sensible people would do. We went door to door, asking our neighbors about Christmas. Surely someone else had to remember, right? Someone must somehow have the feeling that something is missing. Well, we were wrong. Our first stop was Sonic's house. We found him lounging on his couch, surrounded by empty chili dog wrappers. "Christmas," he said, scratching his head. "Never heard of it. Sounds made up." Is it one of those weird things Shadow likes to brood about, or another opportunity for Yuji to play card games with family? Shadow, for his part, was no help either. If it's important, it's probably overrated, he said. Classic Shadow. And Yugi only said I just want to play card games anyway, so no help at all. Echo, ever the optimist, listened patiently as we explained the concept of Christmas. When we finished, she nodded thoughtfully and said, "So, let me get this straight. It's a holiday about giving joy and trees." "Essentially, yes," I replied. "Sounds like a glitch in the Matrix," she said. "Good luck fixing that. These things are usually not easy." Skinner and I returned to my house, feeling more defeated than a pie at Skinner's dinner table. "What do we do now?" he asked. I looked at the map Loomis had given us, spread out on the table. "We go on a journey," I said. The map showed a winding path leading deep into the snowy forests beyond Memefield. At the end of the path was a marked location, an old lodge that Loomis said held the key to reversing the curse. But it wouldn't be an easy journey. The map was filled with notes like, "Beware the frozen peaks," and "Avoid the howling pines." Not exactly encouraging. "We'll need provisions," I said. Skinner nodded. "And maybe some allies," he added. "Allies," I laughed. "The last time we recruited allies, Sonic spent half the time eating, Yugi tried to summon an actual blue, eyes white dragon, and Garfield fell asleep in a snowdrift." Skinner shrugged. "Well, desperate times." And so we set about preparing for our journey. Skinner raided his pantry for snacks, mostly charred cookies and suspiciously crunchy marshmallows. I packed some essentials: a flashlight, a thermos of coffee, and a book titled Surviving Magical Mishaps for Dummies. By the time we were ready, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over Memefield. It was almost poetic, really, the two of us setting off into the unknown, armed with nothing but hope and an uncanny ability to survive ridiculous situations. "Chalmers," Skinner said as we stepped out into the cold, "do you think we'll succeed?" I looked at the determination in his eyes and said, "Skinner, if we can survive your cooking, we can survive anything." And with that, we began our journey to save Christmas. A journey filled with danger, mystery, and, knowing our luck, probably a few more burnt cookies. Our first port of call was to find friends before we set off into the forest. Because this forest has its pitfalls, its dangers which you can only survive as a team. So as it turns out, when you go door to door in Memefield asking for volunteers to trek through a cursed forest to restore a forgotten holiday, the responses range from bemused laughter to polite refusals. And yet, against all odds, we managed to convince two brave souls, or maybe just two bored ones, to join us. Sonic, naturally, couldn't resist the chance to stretch his legs and see how fast this whole cursed thing blows over. Eco, on the other hand, seemed intrigued, not by the idea of Christmas itself, but by the sheer ridiculousness of our story. "I don't believe in this Christmas you have explained earlier," she said, "but I do believe in friends. Friends that always want the best for us. And besides, it beats sitting around watching Yugi duel Master Chief again." With our motley crew assembled and Loomis map in hand, we set off toward the forest at Memefield's edge. The snow crunched underfoot, the air grew colder, and a sense of eerie quiet settled over us as we left the town behind. Now, trekking through a cursed forest is no easy feat, especially when one of your companions insists on doing laps around the group just to stay warm. "Sonic," I said, watching him zip past for the 10th time, "you're making me dizzy." "That's just your old bones talking, Chalmers," he quipped, grinning. Meanwhile, Echo was the picture of calm efficiency. "Keep an eye on the tree line," she said, scanning the shadows with her sharp, mechanical gaze. "You never know what might be lurking." Skinner, clutching the ornament like a lifeline, muttered, "Oh, that's comforting." After what felt like hours of trudging through the snow, we finally saw it, a mysterious lodge. It stood at the heart of the forest, draped in icicles and vines. Its wooden frame weathered by time, it looked like something out of a storybook. Or more accurately, a ghost story. "Well, this is it," Skinner said, his voice trembling with a mix of excitement and fear. "The map says the answer's in there." "Great," Sonic said, stretching. "Let's get in, solve the mystery, and be back in time for chili dogs." H.O. gave him a look. "This isn't a speedrun, Sonic. As we stepped inside, the air grew colder. The lodge was dark and silent, save for the faint creak of the floorboards beneath our feet. Dust covered every surface, and the smell of old wood and forgotten memories hung heavy in the air. In the center of the room stood a small table, cluttered with letters, baubles, and an old, glowing snow globe. The globe emitted a soft, high-pitched melody, a haunting echo of the ornament's tune. Skinner picked up one of the letters, his hands shaking. "Chalmers," he said, "you'd better read this." I unfolded the letter and began to read aloud. It was written in an elegant, looping script, the words heavy with emotion. "To whoever finds this, I am Everett Evergreen, the toymaker of Memefield. I created this lodge as a sanctuary for my work, a place to craft joy for the children of the town. My greatest creation was an enchanted ornament meant to amplify the spirit of Christmas. But my ambition blinded me. The spell went awry, and instead of spreading joy, it buried it. The town forgot Christmas, and I..." The letter ended abruptly, the ink smudged as if by tears. "He blamed himself," Skinner said quietly. "We searched the lodge for more clues, and that's when we found it, a small, hand-carved wooden toy tucked away in a dusty corner. It was a doll, beautifully detailed despite its age." Skinner picked it up gently. "This must have been his first toy," he said. "He made it for his daughter." And indeed, there was a name engraved on the back and a small flap in the toy that revealed a note when opened. "For my little daughter, with love, Daddy." Echo, ever the pragmatist, said, "It's a nice story, but how does this help us break the curse?" That's when she paused, her mechanical eyes narrowing as if she'd remembered something. "Wait," she said. "Loomis told me once there's a way to communicate with the dead. You need an object from the person you want to communicate with, but not just any object, an object filled with love, like this toy, and a few other ingredients." But what?" I asked. "Every magic comes with a price," she said. "Are we willing to take that risk?" Skinner and I exchanged a glance. "If it means saving Christmas for our friends and us," I said, "we have to try." Echo said, "All right, let's get started. But don't blame me if we accidentally summon a vengeful spirit instead of a helpful one." With Echo's guidance, we gathered the necessary ingredients: a handful of holly berries, a pinch of stardust from the snow globe, and the toymaker's doll. As the night grew darker, we stepped outside to a clearing under the stars. "This better work," Sonic muttered. "I don't want to be haunted by some so-called Christmas ghost." H.O. chuckled with confidence and began the ritual, carefully arranging the ingredients in a small fire pit. As the flames rose, the air seemed to hum with energy and an oddly familiar melody. And then he appeared. A ghostly figure, faint and shimmering, stood before us. It was Everett Evergreen, his eyes filled with sorrow and hope. "You've come," he said, his voice echoing like the snow globe's melody. "So my worst fears have come true. The amulet has been reactivated," he said with a worried look. "We need your help," I said. "How do we break the curse?" He looked at us, his expression heavy with regret. "The curse can only be broken by an act of pure, selfless love, the kind of love I lost sight of in my pursuit of perfection." "Then tell us how," Skinner said. "What do we need to do?" Evergreen's gaze lingered on the doll. "Burn it," he said with a heavy voice. "Release the love I poured into it, and the curse will lift. This is the only possibility. Even if it means that my most important creation and the only object that still reminds people of my daughter in the world of the living will be destroyed. But beware, when you disturb the magic, you may awaken more than you bargained for." "Great," Sonic said, "because this wasn't creepy enough already." With Evergreen's guidance, we prepared to burn the doll, knowing it was our only chance to save Christmas. But as the flames flickered and the stars above seemed to brighten, a low, rumbling growl echoed through the forest. "What was that?" Skinner whispered. Evergreen's form flickered, his voice urgent. "You've awakened something ancient, something that was buried with the curse. I'm sorry, but you can achieve what you're looking for. You can undo my biggest mistake." And just like that, he was suddenly gone. We were left standing in the clearing, the doll burning brightly, and the forest around us alive with shadows. The stakes had just been raised, and we knew the real fight was only beginning. "Well," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, This is shaping up to be the most memorable Christmas ever. The clearing was alive with tension. The burning doll cast flickering shadows across the area, and as the flame grew stronger, it began to glow red, deep fiery red. Sonic suddenly stood up straighter, his ears twitching as if he'd heard something in the distance. "Christmas! Wait, Christmas!" he exclaimed. He looked at us, his eyes wide with realization. I remember it now, just bits and pieces. But stockings, trees, presents. This is a real thing, isn't it? Before I could respond, Ed tilted her head, her mechanical eyes glowing faintly. "I'm seeing fragments, people laughing, singing, lights. A big meal." She paused, frowning. "But it's hazy, like trying to remember a dream." The curse," I said. "It's breaking. The doll's magic is working." But just as hope began to swell, the low, ominous growl we'd heard earlier rumbled through the forest again, louder this time. The ground trembled beneath our feet, and Sonic took a step back. "Chalmers, that doesn't sound like a happy Christmas memory." Before I could answer, the trees at the edge of the clearing began to shudder. Snow cascaded from the branches as something massive approached, its heavy footsteps crunching through the frozen ground, and then we saw it, a towering figure, its form illuminated by the fiery glow of the burning doll. It was a snowman, the snowman, massive, with arms like icy clubs and a carrot nose as sharp as a spear. It wore a tattered red Christmas hat, but there was nothing jolly about it. Its eyes glowed with an eerie blue light, and its mouth twisted into a snarl. "What in the frozen tundra is that?" Skinner yelped, clutching the ornament like it was his last lifeline. "Hey, Guardian," I said, my voice shaking. "It must be the curse's guardian. If we defeat it, we defeat the curse." Sonic let out a nervous laugh, a giant snowman. "Seriously, what is this, a bad holiday special?" But this was no joke. The snowman roared, a guttural sound that sent shivers down my spine, and lunged toward us. We scattered, barely avoiding the swing of its icy arm. Its fist hit the ground with a deafening thud, sending snow flying everywhere. "Okay, it's not here to sing carols," Skinner shouted, diving behind a snowbank. "We need a plan," I shouted back. "It's snow, right? There's got to be a way to melt it." Echo dodged another swing and muttered, "You didn't bring a flamethrower, did you, Chalmers?" "No, but wait, we have Skinner," I said, the beginnings of an idea forming. Skinner peeked out from his hiding spot. "Meh, what am I supposed to do? Talk it to death with the latest school budget cuts?" "No, Skinner," I said. "You're going to cook." "Cook," he repeated, as if I just told him to recite the alphabet backward. "Yes, you've been burning meals your entire life. If anyone can create a flame hot enough to melt this thing, it's you." "But I didn't bring a kitchen," Skinner protested, dodging a chunk of ice the snowman hurled at him. "You don't need one," Echo said, tossing him the provisions we'd packed earlier. "Follow your instincts, burn something, and put love into it." Sonic zipped past us, dodging another swing from the snowman. "No pressure, Skinner, but could you hurry it up? Some of us would like to not be snowman pancakes." Skinner scrambled to his feet, his face a mix of panic and determination. He grabbed the ingredients and began throwing them together in the most chaotic cooking display I'd ever seen. A pinch of salt here, a splash of water there. It was culinary madness. "What are you making?" I called out. "I have no idea. But it feels right," Skinner yelled back. "This meal is going to burn like the one from the Chili podcast episode." And burn it did. As he stirred the concoction over the small fire pit, the flames roared to life, climbing higher and higher. The scent of charred something, filled the air. Skinner, it's working," I shouted, dodging another icy swing. But the snowman wasn't giving up. It roared again and charged toward Skinner, its massive arms raised. "Jit it to the flame?" Echo yelled. "We have to lure it in." Sonic zipped around the snowman, pelting it with snowballs. "Hey, Frosty, over here!" The snowman turned, roaring in frustration, and lunged at him. Sonic led it straight toward the flame. "Skinner!" I shouted. Skinner grabbed the burning concoction, held it high, and yelled, "Take this, you oversized ice cube." He hurled the flaming meal into the snowman's chest. The reaction was immediate. The snowman let out a deafening roar as the flame spread across its body, melting its icy form. Steam hissed into the air, and water pooled at its feet. Within moments, it was melting. The clearing was silent, save for the crackle of the fire and the soft, haunting melody of the snow globe. Skinner collapsed onto the snow, panting. "I told you I could burn anything. You saved us," I said, clapping him on the back. And as the last icy remnants of the snowman hissed and melted into the ground, something extraordinary happened. The flames from Skinner's burning concoction flared high, casting a golden glow across the clearing. Then, just as the clock struck 12, the glow shifted, reds, greens, blues, and silvers swirling together in a dazzling, shimmering wave. "The curse," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's breaking." The wave of light rippled outward, spreading across the snowy forest and beyond. Trees sparkled as the light passed through them, their bare branches suddenly adorned with shimmering icicles. The air grew colder, crisper, and as the light reached the edge of Memefield, the entire town lit up in a kaleidoscope of Christmas cheer. In the distance, we saw it glowing strings of lights, wreaths adorning doors, and a giant star atop the town's Christmas tree. Snow began to fall, light and fluffy, blanketing the ground like the first snow of the season. "Would you look at that?" Sonic said, his voice filled with wonder. "It's beautiful." He paused, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "And I remember Christmas. It's all coming back to me." Icho gasped softly, her mechanical eyes glowing. "Men too," she said. "It's all so warm, joyful. I didn't think I'd ever feel this way about anything called a holiday." Without warning, both of them ran toward us. Sonic, true to form, arrived first, throwing his arms around Skinner and me. Echo followed, pulling us into a rare but heartfelt hug. "You two are incredible," she said. "You actually did it." "We all did it," I replied, feeling a swell of pride. "But it's not over yet." As if on cue, a soft jingling sound filled the air. We looked up to see a sleigh descending from the sky, its red and gold trim gleaming under the moonlight. 8 reindeer, their hooves glinting like silver, pulled the sleigh gracefully toward the clearing. "Is that—" Skinner began. "Santa," I said, unable to suppress a grin. "It's Santa Claus." The sleigh landed softly, and out stepped the man himself, his crimson suit pristine, his beard as white as the freshly fallen snow. His eyes twinkled as he looked at each of us in turn. "You've done something remarkable tonight," he said, his deep voice warm with gratitude. "I owe you my thanks." "Well," Sonic said, brushing snow off his shoulder, "we do what we can." But Santa's gaze shifted, his smile fading as he looked at the puddle of water where the snowman had stood. His expression softened, and he stepped closer, his boots crunching in the snow. "Snowed?" he whispered away. "Is it you?" I watched in stunned silence as Santa knelt by the puddle, his voice trembling with emotion. "How can this be? I thought I lost you. I tried to save you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then faintly, the water began to swirl. A ghostly figure of the snowman appeared, shimmering like frost on a windowpane. Its eyes, once filled with malice, now glowed with sadness. "You tried to save me," the snowman said, his voice hollow and echoing. "I thought you let me melt. I thought you abandoned me." Santa shook his head, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Never. You were my first creation, Snowy. My friend, I tried everything to save you, but I was young and didn't have the magic I needed. When you melted, I carried that pain with me for centuries." The snowman's form flickered, his voice softening. "All this time, I thought you forgot me." "I could never forget you," Santa said. And I may not have been able to save you then, but I can save you now. Hold on, this could hurt slightly." Reaching into the puddle, Santa cupped his hands as if lifting something delicate. When he stood, he held a single, glistening snowflake. "This is all that remains of you," he said. "But it could work." Together, we worked to build a new snowman. Sonic zipped around, gathering fresh snow in a blur of blue. Echo meticulously shaped the snowman's features, her mechanical precision unmatched. Skinner offered moral support, which was honestly for the best. "Make sure it's symmetrical," Skinner said, squinting at the snowman's nose. "You don't want to ruin the aesthetic." When the snowman was complete, Santa stepped forward, holding the snowflake in his hand. "Snowy," he said, his voice filled with hope. "It's time to come home." He placed the snowflake at the center of the snowman's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the snowman's form glowed with a soft, golden light. His eyes opened, and a warm, cheerful smile spread across his face. "I'm alive," Snowy said, his voice now filled with wonder. You saved me." "You're alive," Santa said, pulling him into a hug. "I made a promise and now I'm keeping it. This time I won't let you go." The clearing erupted in cheers. Sonic whooped, Echo smiled an actual smile, and Skinner clapped his hands like a delighted child. Even I couldn't help but laugh. "Well," I said, looking around at the snow-covered clearing, the glowing town, and the smiling faces of my friends, "I'd say that's a Christmas miracle." Santa turned to us, his eyes twinkling. "You've done more than save Christmas. You've reminded me of the importance of love, friendship, and second chances. Thank you." "All in a day's work," I said, brushing some snow off my coat. "But maybe next year let's keep the magical ornaments locked up." "Ah, good of you to remind me," Santa says, taking a step toward Skinner to ask him about the ornament. "Let's make sure this ornament is what it was always meant to be, a gift from the toy maker that will only make the love for Christmas flare up even more." Santa takes the ornament and waves his hand over it as the ornament lights up brightly, and a bright light rises into the sky. "No, it's safe and free of its curse, and on its way to someone special out there somewhere," Santa says and smiles. With a final wave, Santa climbed back into his sleigh, Snowy sitting proudly beside him. As the sleigh rose into the sky, his booming voice echoed across the clearing. "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." As we made our way back to Memefield, the snow crunching softly underfoot, I couldn't help but marvel at how different everything looked. The curse was broken, and the town had transformed into a scene straight out of a holiday postcard. Twinkling lights adorned every house, wreaths hung on every door, and the giant Christmas tree in the square sparkled like a beacon of cheer. "I don't think I've ever seen Memefield look this festive," I said. "Even Garfield's house has lights, and we all know how much he loves putting in effort." As we entered the square, the townsfolk began to emerge, rubbing their eyes as if waking from a long nap. Slowly, the memories returned. You could see it in their faces, the sudden recognition, the joy, the warmth. Yugi was the first to speak. "Christmas," he exclaimed, holding up his cards. "I remember now. This is the season where everything is magical, and people are nice for no reason." Sonic zipped up beside him. "Yeah, it's a good excuse for chili dogs, too." The air filled with laughter and carols as people reunited, exchanged hugs, and set to work celebrating the holiday that nearly lost forever. Echo, standing beside me, tilted her head and said, "This feels good, unexpected, but good." Skinner, ever the sentimental one, was already tearing up. "Look at them, Chalmers," he said. "They're so happy. We actually did it." I said, clapping him on the back. "And if you think about it, the real miracle is that you didn't burn down the forest during that battle." Speaking of burning, Skinner insisted on preparing a Christmas dinner for the two of us we got home. He'd clearly put a lot of thought and, dare I say, love into it. But when he brought the plates to the table, well, let's just say the char on the turkey could have rivaled his snowman flame. "It's a little well done," Skinner admitted, sheepishly setting the plate down in front of me. I looked at the slightly blackened feast, then at Skinner, and couldn't help but smile. "It's perfect," I said, and for once I meant it. We sat by the window, watching the town square come alive with carolers and laughter. Kids raced through the snow, couples held hands under the glowing lights, and somewhere in the distance, you could hear the faint jingle of sleigh bells. "You know," I said, "there's something special about this time of year. It's not just the decorations or the gifts. It's the way it brings people together, reminds them of what really matters. Magic like that, it's worth preserving." Skinner nodded, his face softening. "And it's worth fighting for," he said. I raised my glass of eggnog. "To Christmas," I said. "To Christmas," Skinner echoed, raising his own. And as I sit here, sharing this story with all of you, I can't help but feel grateful. Grateful for this quirky little town, for the people who make it home, and for the chance to keep the holiday spirit alive. So, from all of us here in Memefield, Merry Christmas, dear listeners. Thank you for joining us on this wild, whimsical journey. May your holiday season be filled with joy, laughter, and just a little bit of magic. And if you're ever in the neighborhood, drop by for dinner. just maybe bring a fire extinguisher, just in case. And with that, our adventure came to an end. Christmas was saved, Memefield was aglow with holiday cheer, and we learned that even the most unlikely heroes can make a difference. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think it's time for some well-earned eggnog. So, again, have a nice Christmas season, everyone. See you in the next podcast or the next Christmas story.